Long before he would direct a Christian Mingle movie and play his great character in Psych, Corbin Burnson would play his most eccentric and outlandish character yet. Let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Chris. Thanks for stopping by and watching my review for The Dentist. So, quick disclaimer before we get into this review. If you are squeamish, if you don't like going to the dentist, if dental work scares you, then click off this video because I'm going to be showing a lot of stuff that involves crazy dental extractions and blood and all of that stuff in this episode. So, just wanted to put that out there in the beginning that if you don't like the dentist, then you may not like this movie or this review, but we're going to get right into it. So, I picked up release from Feistone. I think this was earlier this year that they released the Dentist collection. So, this has the first one and the second one on it. We're going to talk about the first one here, and then maybe down the line we'll talk about the sequel, which is far more outlandish than the beginning. But before we get into the review itself, consider going down there, hitting the subscribe button, hitting the like button, and share this with anybody who's into weird, obscure horror movies from any decade, any time, and physical media that we cover on the channel. Let's get into this film overall. We start out with Dr. Alan Feinstone in his house, getting ready for work. He's got a gorgeous wife. He's got a giant house. He's living the life of luxury that you would if you were possibly siphoning off money from your company. Who knows what he's doing, you know? But his gorgeous wife laying out by the pool in a robe. We've got the strong and able-bodied pool cleaner man, and he senses something wrong in this scenario, that she may have a liking and a keen eye for our boy Matt here. Anyway, he calls her in and it was like, hey, you know, where are my cufflinks? When I wear this, I always wear my diamond cufflinks, but they're at the jeweler and you wouldn't happen to have picked them up, would you? And she's like, no, I just slipped my mind, seeing as I hate you and all, and this relationship is a sham and this marriage is a sham and I just am here for your money. I completely forgot to do the thing that you probably never asked me to do. You just assumed that I would do because I'm your wife. Okay, so anyway, she's like, but I will give you something that you may find useful in this moment, and it's an early anniversary gift. She gives him these like really cool cufflinks that he can then wear, and he's now kind of distracted by the fact that, okay, well, I don't have my diamond ones, but these are pretty good. And then he immediately snaps to, how much do these cost? I'm sure these were absorbently expensive, and I know it's my money because you don't work. Well, I think she actually does do like fundraising and stuff like that, but you know, it's never clear if that is like a volunteer thing or if she actually has a job, but he clearly is bankrolling most of this marriage here. And so he gets the cufflinks, he puts them on, realizes that she's got nothing on under her robe, and he's like, honey, what are we doing here? You can't be flashing the tatas to anybody that walks by, including the pool man, the disgusting pool man. Get yourself together, put some on. She's like, well, I was gonna take a shower. You know, I was gonna take a shower. But we know that she wasn't going to take a shower. She was going to take a shower in something else. You know what I mean? In that pool, down by the pool. That's what she was going to do. He acts like he's leaving. He goes to leave, and then he comes back suspecting that something might be going on between these two. And lo and behold, it is. Doing the nasty and stuff like that. And so you get this sense that there is something going on here. Now, he does have these flashes of stuff going on, and you're like, what is real here and what is not real here? You aren't really sure, but it does flash to him like doing some very crazy stuff. She is like flirting and doing stuff with this guy. And then he goes over to the next door neighbor's house and sees the pool guy with the next door neighbor. So he's just, but again, you kind of in this moment where you're like, what is going on and what is not? And this film was directed by Brian Usna, and you get that sense he has a great style anyway, but I really like this, you know, frantic and manic state that the doctor is in, because some of it you're like, what you're watching, is it actually happening or is it all in his mind? Because this man is clearly off his fucking rocker in this movie, and this is what leads him down that path. But anyway, he goes to the next door neighbor. He sees her go in the pool house with Matt, you know, again. So now he's like, he's sleeping with my woman. Now he's sleeping with the neighbor. I'm going to take care of all this infidelity that's going on. And then he gets attacked by the dog through the fence, and they're running, and so he runs away from the dog and does the unspeakable. He's got a John Wick going on here. Long before the John Wicks, he just shoots a dog, except he does the actual killing and it's not happening to him, but he point blank shoots this dog. I mean, he is being attacked, mind you, but you don't have to shoot the dog. I mean, he didn't have to shoot the dog, but he does. He kills that dog, gets in his car, and goes to work like nothing happened. And this begins the spiral that leads us through this movie. We have a lot of crazy shit that goes on in this movie. There's so much, and I don't want to give it all away here. I don't want to talk about like every moment that's in this movie, but there is a lot of crazy stuff involving dental work, obviously, because he is becoming very manic through this movie and is like just kind of doing stuff that he wouldn't normally do. And at one point he does call his wife to kind of see where she's at. She's like, well, I just got out of the shower. She's smoking, which she says that she's not doing. She's a liar. You know, maybe it's justified. She clearly lives a stressful life. Calls her and is basically like, what are you doing? All this stuff. Just be ready for our date tonight. You know, we got to get ready. And she's like, okay. And she gets off the phone. She says, asshole. He says, bitch. It's very funny. They clearly don't like each other, but he's got this gun, you know. He's losing mind. His stuff's all ripped up. So he gets changed, goes out. All the patients up until this point are very angry. They've been waiting for him and they need to be seen. There's one IRS guy that keeps bothering him, keeps calling him, shows up to the office. Basically, he's like, hey, I know what you're doing, so you're gonna do some dental work for me and pay me, and I won't pass this on to my boss, so you get audited by the IRS and they find out what you're actually doing and how you're affording all these lavish things that you are. This begins, like I said, a dark path. One of the things I do want to know, I do like to point out sometimes when I recognize people throughout these movies, we do get a young Mark Ruffalo in this movie. So very interesting. He plays kind of the manager of a beauty queen who is kind of our first victim in this thing, where she comes in and, you know, the hygienist and the assistant is like, no, she's fine. She doesn't need any work. And he comes in there and he's like, but she does. How dare you? Like, let me look at her. So he sends her out and she's got some sensitivity. She doesn't like needles. And so he basically takes some nitric oxide. He's using nitric oxide here like Vin Diesel does. Just overusing it, man. Doesn't know when to not use the NOS. And so he's basically giving it to everybody. Like, everybody's going under today because I need to murder you and drill into your teeth and cause you physical harm. And so he goes in there. And this is where like the weirdly Brian-ness in these movies and some of his other movies comes in, such as the later Reanimator films, is that this is the sexual part where he begins to kind of visualize and hallucinate that this girl is actually his wife. And so there's some weird stuff that's probably not appropriate for YouTube, so we won't talk about it. But it's a weird scene where he's basically doing some not great things to this woman. It doesn't go that far, but just know that some stuff happens in this scene. Basically, he's just like, oh God, but you know, then realizes that it's not his wife and gets himself in a world of shit, and then he's going from patient to patient. And that's kind of what we get throughout this movie. It's just different scenes of him with different patients and how far is he going to go, because now basically he's hallucinating them with like rotten out teeth, you know, their tongues are gross, and basically he keeps saying like the decay has taken over, and so he visualizes these people with these decays in them. In reality, this man is decaying and losing his mind and basically seeing all these hallucinations, because clearly he does have something going on, because his wife at one point, Brooke, does say that he needs to take his pill. Just one, but he needs to take it. So clearly there's some mental instability going on with him before these actions take place. And this is what the onslaught begins. You know, we've got our IRS guy who gets this big bolted thing, which is actually on the cover of this movie, and the new art. So you can kind of see it there. He gets this thing bolted to him and rips open his mouth, and then he kills one of his assistants. So we've got a lot of carnage in this movie. Other than the dental work, it's pretty subdued as far as the killings go. There's guns, there's like strangulation, stuff like that, but the brutal stuff here is the dental work. And I want to talk about the special effects in this for a moment. Obviously, they are a little outdated. This movie was from '96, I believe. So they're a little outdated, and you can kind of tell exactly when they're using the special effects because you can see the rubbery nature of it. But I do like it. I do like it. It's goofy. You know, especially I would say the most brutal scene in this movie is with his wife. And he basically, that night comes, he's done all this crazy stuff throughout the day. He brings her into this like luxurious suite. So another thing I didn't mention is that all the rooms are kind of themed. And so you got a rainforest room, a heaven room, and now he's got this like opera room. And he puts Brooke down, he puts the NOS on there because he's always using the NOS, bro. And so he puts her under and then subsequently rips out all her fucking teeth, man. You want to talk about a brutal thing. takes all her teeth out, dude. And it is rough. As a person who is getting dental work right now and has to go next week to get to get a tooth put in, I'm just like, I don't know if I should have watched this before I have somebody go into my mouth and screw something in. But anyway, I don't mind the dentist. But this movie kind of makes you rethink dental work and, you know, what could happen if you were under. They could just rip out all your fucking teeth. They could all be gone. Anyway, I really like this movie. Like I said, the special effects are great. They're a little cheesy. This movie is very campy throughout the whole thing. But Corbin Burnson is amazing in this movie. His character is eccentric, wacky, delusional. He's out of his mind, and he is doing all these things for this affair that may or may not have happened in the very beginning. So I just like this. I like there's some dreamlike states in this. I like the camera work. In the beginning, it's this very like natural light, overblown shot, and I really like that. It's very reminiscent of the 90s. It reminds me of how the Ice Cream Man kind of looked, very similar in style to this movie. I did cover the Ice Cream Man on the channel, so you can check that out. Another great, weird 90s movie that's kind of in vain. I feel like there was a time when a lot of these like specific type of movies were coming out. We had Dr. Giggles and The Dentist and Ice Cream Man. So these great, just weird one-off movies. This does have a sequel. Ice Cream Man never did, and I will be covering Dr. Giggles soon. I did pick up that Blu-ray recently. Scream Factory did put it out this year, so I do want to cover that. Now that I'm in the mode of covering, you know, people in this industry murdering people, I might as well cover Dr. Giggles because it's amazing. Anyway, I have belabored this on enough. I think that this movie is great, and we're gonna wrap it up with what happens at the end and kind of my overall thoughts on the film itself. So at the end, we have this runaround, and there's been this girl that's been trying to get her braces off throughout the whole movie, and you're like, it comes to the point where she's got to go back, and you're like, oh God. Is he going to kill this? She's clearly a teenager. She's excited to get her braces off. And I'm like, is he going to kill this girl? I feel like he's going to kill this girl. He doesn't, thankfully. He does try to. He does take her braces off, which I was glad. You know, as a person waiting for this girl to just get her braces off and have her party and be excited, he does try to kill her, of course. Her name is Sarah. He does try to kill her, and she does escape. She gets to the police come, and they find all the carnage that has gone on at his house, which is crazy. Brooke there with all her nasty teeth. You know, Matt finds her at some point, and that's pretty rough. He kills Matt, and they eventually do get a hold of him, and they put him in a mental institution, where our sequel picks up, and that movie is even weirder than this one. If you ever thought about a movie setting up something that would lead to such craziness, that is what happens with The Dentist 2. We will definitely get there because I love The Dentist 2. It is wacky and weird in all the right ways, and I love every minute of it. So overall, like I said, I really do like The Dentist. I highly recommend that you watch The Dentist. It's all great. It's got some great special effects. You get to see Corbin Burnson. Why am I having so much trouble today? Corbin Burnson today saying he's got a weird name, okay? It's a weird name, Corbin. Not a lot of people are named Corbin. Anyway, Corbin Burnson is great in this movie, and I highly recommend that you check this out and seek it. And I would get the Vestron thing. This thing's like $11. So highly worth it. All the Vestron line is incredible. And so this is no slouch in that department. If you like what we do here, consider becoming part of the collective. We cover a lot of obscure movies like this, and slashers, and physical media, and 4K stuff. So I've got all of that. I'm going to link some videos for you at the end as always. And I'll talk to you guys in my next review.